Well, hello and welcome to the Movie Paradise. I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár, and this is our Avengers Infinity War spoiler discussion. We are talking all things Avengers, and we're going into super depth with spoilers, so if you have not seen the movie yet, do not watch this video. You can go to themovieparadise.com and check out our spoiler-free review there if you have not seen the movie. And once again, I am your host, Nathanael Molnár, and I'm joined by a great panel today. We have Matt Smith.
Hello.
And we have Nick Elliott.
Hello.
So let's just start with our first impressions of the film. Obviously, this is a big movie. 10 years of Marvel movies, 19 movies, I believe, have been building to this one film, and it all culminates in this. So there was a lot of anticipation. There was very high expectations for it. I'd say off the bat, for me, I really enjoyed myself. I don't think this is one of Marvel's best films, like the best made movie, but in terms of a movie theater experience and just how much sheer fun it is, it's unparalleled. It's such a great experience. Seeing all these characters, we've seen the characters come together before. We've seen Iron Man and Captain America and Thor. We've seen them all hang out and talk and stuff. But seeing new combinations, seeing Doctor Strange and Iron Man, seeing Rocket Raccoon and Thor, and seeing all these different combinations and seeing these new heroes come together, it was just so entertaining. It was such a fun experience. I know I had such a great time at the theater watching it, and I have some nitpicky problems with it, as always, but, you know, it's fun, it's funny, it's entertaining, it's a blast, and they do such a great work with Thanos as a character. So, overall, I was very happy with the movie. Matt, what did you think of it?
I can confirm about 2 hours after seeing the movie, I am still very shook by it. So if that says anything about it, I still just have things rattling off in my head about everything.
Yes,
so
Matt saw it for the first time just a couple hours ago.
I did.
Nick and I had seen it before, so we saw it a second time.
Yeah, it's just, it hits you. Mm. It's very impactful, and that's exactly what I would expect a movie of this caliber to be. So I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, this was one of the only movies I've seen to date that, like, literally has me on the edge of my seat. Like, I know that's a saying people have, but, like, in actuality, I was sitting up like, oh my god, what's going to happen? It was, for me, my initial thought was it was the best movie Marvel had ever made. They spent 19 years getting here, and boy, did they deliver, kind of thing. Yeah, it grabbed me. What was the saying I used? It picked me up by my legs, swung me like a baseball bat into the nearest wall, and now I have 2 weeks to live. I think that was it. It impacted me so viscerally as a movie that I had to sit there after it was done, just kind of put my head in my hands and just sit for like maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just like, okay, now I can go. Like, this is my second time watching it, and I'm still not okay.
The movie theater attendant had to tell you.
Yeah, he had to give me an impromptu counseling. It was a phenomenal movie. It is a phenomenal movie. I think it'll go down as something big, I think.
They should have done, therapists should have been like camping outside of the theater and just handing out their cards to anyone who came out. Because you know people are going to need some counseling.
There's just tents set up in the lobby.
Yes.
Oh.
The Red Cross is there, ready to administer anything.
If you can get your taxes done in a Walmart, you can get psychiatric counseling in a movie theater lobby. Absolutely.
So let's just get into the pros. I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of this discussion here. Matt, start us off. What did you like about this movie?
Going in, one of my biggest fears was that some characters wouldn't get enough screen time that I thought they would, and that they would focus too much on the main people, the really big names.
Yeah.
But I was extremely delighted when how much time Doctor Strange got, because that was my number one. Because I love Doctor Strange, it's probably one of my favorites, and just the fact that he was in it for so much, and that I was so scared he was just going to get pushed to the side until they needed him.
Yeah.
So I was just really happy about that. Probably my biggest thing. Also, the balance between comedy and drama that we talked about a ton before seeing the movie. I'm very glad how that worked out. I'm sure you'd like to talk about that more.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big part.
Yeah, no, definitely. And going off of what you were saying about the characters, that was something, I think you definitely have characters who are underused, but I think everyone kind of across the board is underused a little bit. And I think that's a good thing. I think it works for this movie because you can't, just from the sheer number of characters that you have, you can't spend a whole movie with every single character. There are going to be characters who are kind of dropped. I felt like Captain America got a little bit of the short end of the stick with that. Mm-hmm. But then I think you do get a ton of time with Tony Stark. You get a ton of time with Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. You get a lot of time with the Guardians, and I think, and Thor especially as well, and even Thanos. And that's really where the most of the movie should be spent on. Mm-hmm. I think they have the more interesting story. Now, I wish you could have gotten a little more time with Captain America. I wish you could have gotten a little more time with Black Panther. But, you know, you have to focus on some things and you have to not focus on other things. We get barely any Falcon. We get barely any War Machine. Mm-hmm. But just because you have so many characters, you have to make that sacrifice. Mm-hmm. And I thought who they chose to focus on and who they chose not to focus on, they made the right decisions for this movie. And talking about Doctor Strange, I loved how much time he got. Because I was not expecting him to be as central of a character as he was. And he absolutely needed to be for this story. And it worked. And I loved also the blending of the Avengers with the Guardians. I thought all those scenes were great. Mm-hmm. And especially Thor and Rocket Raccoon. That dynamic was perfect. And that's a pairing I never thought I needed until I saw it. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I need.
The friendship that had to be.
Mm. Nick, what were some things you liked about the movie?
So, like Matt, I really liked the balancing. There were a lot of characters in this, and like you said, there were some more main characters as a story would have, but every character got their time. Mm-hmm. I feel like
yes,
you if you went into Infinity War expecting Mantis to have an hour-long monologue, you're in the market for the wrong movie. But Mantis got, I think, as much time as she needed to do what she needed, along with every other character like Falcon and Captain America and stuff like that. Would I have liked to see more Captain America? Yeah, I'm a huge Captain America fan, but was it right? I think so. I think it was...
It was a good balance across the board.
Certainly.
And going off what you're saying, every character does have their moment.
Yeah.
Even if they don't have like a ton of screen time, they have a moment that you can latch on to. Like even War Machine, he's barely in the movie, but he has that one part in the Wakanda fight where he's shooting down all the aliens, and that's a really cool moment.
Even Mantis had the whole part where she was stopping Thanos from moving.
Yeah.
The key, she was the key part to their plan.
Before Star-Lord fucked it all up.
No. Yeah. No character is wasted. I think.
Exactly.
Like every character is necessary in some part, and they don't miss their mark with them.
Yeah. Even if they don't have a ton of screen time or character development, they still get their moments to shine. And we're proven why they need to be in this story. Because I think it could have very easily have gone that you have all these characters, but there's no reason for all of them to be there. It could have very easily have been, oh, you feel like you're just kind of shoehorning all these characters in. But I felt like when I watched this movie, each character had a specific purpose and a reason to be in there. Nobody was wasted. Yeah. Nobody didn't feel like they belonged there. They each had their own purpose, and even if they didn't have, 30 minutes of screen time, they had a moment to shine, and that I really appreciated. And talking about the balance of the comedy and the drama, I thought it went really well. Yeah. I thought that was something I was nervous about, just because I think sometimes Marvel comedy, sometimes it works really well, and sometimes they just kind of beat you over the head with it and it doesn't work. I think that's just everyone's personal preference as to how it falls into line. But with me, I felt all the comedy was great. I think there was only maybe a couple moments where I was like, all right, that was a weak joke. But for the most part, all the comedy is really good, and they use it at the right times. Yeah. It's a lot more comedic of a movie than I thought it was going to be, but it works.
Yeah. Infinity War, for me, was always going to be a darker movie, and I think it should have been. Yeah. And I think it hit... there were a few times where they joked a bit more than I would have liked, but like you said, all the jokes worked. I wasn't upset. I was like, these characters have a wide comedic range, and especially when you're playing off of one another. My favorite joke wasn't actually a joke. It was the Groot and Captain America interaction. It was just so
I am Groot.
adorable.
I am Steve Rogers.
Like, just the idea that may have been one of the weirdest things Captain America has seen, and that's saying something, but for him to just be like, all right, fine, we're doing this, whatever. But I always pictured Infinity War being one of the darker movies in the MCU, and I think it worked. I think the balance, and this goes back into the interplay of the characters, how each character got their screen time. Every darker moment, and there are a few really dark moments in this film, they snap back to something that's not like, oh, see, everything's fine, it's all funny, but they snap back to a few witty lines to it's balanced. There's no long drudge of misery, and there's no like you won't be laughing for an hour straight, you won't be crying for an hour straight. It's a good,
unless after the movie, then you'll be crying for an hour straight.
Yes, absolutely. But the comedy was interspersed well. It was a good break from some of the more heavier.
And I think a lot of the comedy stems just from characters interacting. And I think because a lot of it is, who are you? Wait, who are you? I don't know who you are. You know, it's a lot of just character interactions, and that's where the comedy comes from. And I think because we know these characters and we know how they act, that comedy comes about a lot more naturally. Yeah. So the comedy, it never felt like the comedy was being interjected in there, and it never felt like it was taking away from the stakes or the darkness of it or the emotional elements of it. It never felt like it was taking away from that, but it complemented it nice. It never got too heavy. It never got too dark to the point where I was like, oh, jeez, come on, this is a Marvel movie. Yeah. You know, they brilliantly knew when to be funny, when to be serious. And that was all I was really wanting from this movie. I didn't want it to be funny when it should have been serious. I didn't want it to be serious when it should have had a few more jokes in there. It found that balance, and I really appreciated that. So we've talked about the use of the characters. We talked about the comedy. Let's talk a little bit about the action. So the way I put it is that I don't think there are any action sequences in this film that are as good as Civil War. I don't think you have any battle sequence or anything that's nearly as good as the airport sequence. However, where this film shines is you have moments in these battles that really stand out. You don't have standout battles, but you have standout moments. Like Winter Soldier picking up Rocket and spinning him around as they're shooting, or Captain America and Black Panther running and leaping into battle, or Thor, probably one of the best moments of the entire movie, when Thor shows up in Wakanda with Rocket on his shoulder and Groot, and he leaps into the sky with the lightning and just decimates everyone.
And Banner's like, you guys are so fucking screwed.
Yes, exactly.
I love that, because that's exactly what I was thinking. Like,
yes. You have such great moments in these action sequences, moments where you're just like, yeah! In the theater. Yeah, and I think literally the first time I saw it, I actually did like scream out in the theater. You know, as you have these giant, awesome moments that you could blow up on posters in these battle sequences. And that's what I needed. Would I wish that there was an action sequence that was on the same level as the airport sequence in Civil War? Yeah, I wish we could have had that. But I was fine with what we got, because the emphasis was on these moments in these battles as opposed to the battle themselves. And I think we're still waiting for the big battle. I don't think we have the big battle yet. Yeah. I think that's coming in Avengers 4.
I think in terms of moments, the idea of, like, it looks like they're losing and then someone else comes in happens multiple times. And I think normally I would like be that as like a negative. But I think in terms of what this movie is and what it's doing, I feel like that perfectly represents it, to where just randomly people are coming in left and right and helping people. And I was just so happy to see this person every time it happens.
Yeah.
Like when Thor was coming to Wakanda, or some other time that I can't think of because my brain's still too rattled from the movie. But
Nebula dropping in on Titan.
There you go.
I think was a good one.
Yeah.
For me, For me, Winter Soldier still has the best action scenes. I think Winter Soldier had the most satisfying action scenes. Civil War is also really up there, and I think Infinity War might actually come in third. I liked these battle scenes a lot. One thing that really drew me was the interplay between the characters when they're fighting. Like all these characters have such a diverse range of powers and abilities that they use to help each other. Like Spider-Man swinging through Doctor Strange's portals to kill Thanos. That was really awesome. Things like seeing Black Panther's suit discharge energy in the fight with all the forearm things. I'm forgetting their names, but
yeah, I don't know if they even. I'm sure they have names, but I don't know if they were ever revealed in the movie.
Outriders or something.
Something.
Like that? I don't know. But the idea that every character isn't just a person who can punch a lot. They all have their powers, and that was shown, and they were shown playing off each other's powers. I think was really cool. I kind of went in expecting everyone to fight Thanos and Thanos to fight everyone, but I understand why they didn't do that. I think looking back, that's a good choice. Save that.
We didn't get all the characters together. Like, if you had asked me, like, as I was going into the theater, right about to see it for the first time, hey, do you want to see Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and all of them together, every single Avenger fighting Thanos? I would have said, yeah, obviously, of course I want to see that. Yeah. And we don't get that. But in retrospect, after seeing what they do with it, it makes sense.
Yeah, I prefer it this way, I believe.
Yeah. We don't have Iron Man and Captain America fighting side by side because we're still dealing with the repercussions of Civil War. I mean, it's hard enough for Tony to even pick up the phone to call Captain America for help, let alone fight side by side with him. Yeah. So I think we're going to see that in Avengers 4. I think Avengers 4 is when we're going to get all the Avengers fighting Thanos together. I think that's when we're going to get our big, giant airport level fight with all the Avengers. I think that's when we're going to get all of that.
Yeah. Another thing that's interesting is that it almost feels like they are fighting together because not only are they fighting the same person, he literally leaves one fight to go to another.
Yeah.
Like, he's just fighting,
skipping around the fights.
He's fighting everyone almost at the same time, but in completely different places. So I feel like that's kind of why you don't have that longing for them all to be together, because it almost feels like they are together.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting the same fight, just at different times.
How great was Thanos? Thanos, especially his fight sequences, when he first takes down the Hulk.
Oof.
That was because Loki says, we have a Hulk, which I didn't pick up on that the first time I saw it, and then later I realized, oh wait, there's a big significance to him saying that line.
Yeah.
And so he says, we have a Hulk. Hulk comes charging out. He starts laying into Thanos, and then what's the Black Order guy? Ma?
Ebony Maw, the magic
Ebony Maw. He's like, let him have his fun. And then Thanos completely bitch slaps the Hulk, puts him in his place, and the Hulk has never been beaten before. And this guy just tears through him, and I love what that set up for the rest of the movie, because I kept waiting for Hulk to come back, and he never did.
For me, I remember watching some interview where they said, you'll understand why Thanos is the villain we've been building up to within the first 5 or so minutes of the film. And as soon as I saw Thanos, like, molly-whopping Hulk, like, Hulk in the films, to this point, is the strongest person we've ever seen. In terms of, like, a physical fight.
Just brute strength.
Just brute strength.
And Thanos laid him out like that.
Like, we've seen, like, galactic-level villains and whatever, but, like, on screen, the person we think of as the strongest Avenger, and that's a Thor Ragnarok callback, I think, because he's in the Quinjet, whatever. Hulk's the strongest one we have till then. And Thanos just wipes the floor with him.
Yeah.
And he just gets up and he's like, all right, yeah, whatever. He just keeps on going. It wasn't an effort for him.
And Hulk was petrified to come back out, and I really like that. And I hope that means we're going to get an awesome return in Avengers 4 with Hulk.
I think so.
But Thanos, they did a lot of really interesting character work with him. Because Marvel has always had a problem where they have weak villains. And we've seen them lately with Vulture, Killmonger. We've seen them slowly changing that.
Yeah.
And I think they probably give us definitely one of the top villains they've ever given with Thanos.
Oh, absolutely.
I'd have to think about it. I think I might prefer Loki more than Thanos, but it's close.
Yeah.
It is very
Yeah.
close.
He's very certainly within the top 3 or 4.
And they do so much with his character. Like, I loved, well, first of all, he sees himself as a very noble person. He has this calling, and he has to do what nobody else is willing to do. And you can see there's so much work that Josh Brolin does with just his face. And anytime he has to talk about it, you can tell that no one else understands this, and it's so clear to him. It's clear as day that this is what needs to happen, and this will bring balance to the universe. And nobody else can see that, and they call him mad, they call him crazy, but that's what needs to happen. And there's so much depth to that, and as well as his love for Gamora. I thought that was such a great storyline, because he, as evil as he is, as wiping out, half of the universe, he has the capacity to love, and he does love. And there's even that moment near the end where Scarlet Witch says, you could never love anybody. There's just this look on Thanos' face, like, you don't understand the half of what I'm going through. Like, you don't even understand. Like, the fact that they just immediately think of him as just some like, one-dimensional villain, just, that added so much to him.
Yeah.
And that whole scene with the Soul Stone, with Red Skull, by the way. How great was Red Skull just popping up out of nowhere?
I understand why, and I like that they did it. I think they could have done a bit more in terms of, like, explaining, or at least explaining why he is now the way that he is. I thought it was kind of an odd character shift, but honestly, if you get catapulted halfway through space, you're probably not going to
end up anywhere.
Yeah, you're probably not going to be...
It felt jarring the first time, because I was like, oh, that's Red Skull. I was like, okay, why is Red Skull here?
Yeah.
But I read into it more, and it kind of, the more I thought about it, it felt right.
Yeah.
Because someone made the point, it's kind of poetic. He had the first Infinity Stone. It makes sense. He's the guardian of the last one.
Yeah.
And that kind of, once I started thinking about it in those terms, I was like, okay, that makes a little more sense. But you have that whole scene where he sacrifices Gamora. That whole scene was fantastic. And I loved how he's crying, and she's mocking him. She's mocking him for crying, and then Red Skull says, "Those tears aren't for him." And she has this like moment. She's like, "Oh shit!" And
it's the worst way to realize your parent actually does love you.
Yeah.
Right before they catapult you off a cliff.
I loved all the character work they did with Thanos, and I thought Josh Brolin gave a brilliant performance. I thought he was great.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So Thanos is one of, if not the best MCU villain they've ever done. Do you guys have any more thoughts on Thanos?
I like you said, I like the dimensionality to him. I think his relationship with his Black Order members was interesting. They said they're the children of Thanos, and it's very clear he doesn't treat them the same way. But they hold him with such a reverence that there's got to be a reason for that. So even when he said, when he sees Strange again, he said, "Oh, that must mean Ma is dead. This day has been very taxing." So he understands that, one of my generals is dead, and that's just another body count for me to mourn later. Like, he's a general that grieves, and I think he's I don't know if I'd put him as my favorite. I think Killmonger might etch him out a bit for me, but he's certainly one of the most well-done villains in Marvel so far.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah. They definitely have the multiple dimension villain down well, like with Vulture, who started off just as a guy who was upset that his job got taken away, or Killmonger, who was he also believed he totally in the right, but he was also like so sure of his own motives that even though he was a villain, he was still like understood. So I feel like they're really getting this multi-dimensional villain thing down, and it just shows that so much with Thanos. Yeah, and just, again, like, it all goes down to that very ending scene where he's with baby Gamora, or little Gamora, and she says, what did it cost? And he says, everything. And I think that sums it up perfectly, in that he knew he had this one goal. He had everything was working towards this goal, and then at the very end, he achieves that, and he's sitting out, looking at the world, and he says it earlier in the film. He's like, I'll sit on my farm and I'll look out at a grateful universe. And he's looking, and there's you can tell there's a little bit of discontent with him. Like, he's finally achieved what he's been working for his entire life, his calling,
but it's not complete because then he realizes everything that he lost.
Mm.
And I love it's a very, he kind of has like a two-face kind of element to his character where he very much operates in halves, which I thought was interesting. It wasn't super played up, like it wasn't Tommy Lee Jones level hammy or anything like that, but it was interesting because even just subtly, like with his two daughters, he loves Gamora, but then he just tears Nebula apart.
Yeah.
Like there's little subtle work they do with that. And I thought just even tiny little things added so much to his character, made him a really formidable villain. So we get to see, the whole part where you have Iron Man and Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and the Guardians, they're on Titan. Mm-hmm. And when Thanos shows up, he uses the reality gem to show what his homeworld looked like before, and he starts talking about, I rejected my destiny once, I denied it once, and this is what happened. Mm-hmm. I thought that added so much to his character. I wish we even could have spent a little bit more time with what his homeworld was like and what all that was like, but it shows you, it makes you understand him. You don't sympathize with him, you don't empathize with him, but you understand where he's coming from, where his whole world, he had his vision for what needs to happen in order for the universe to survive. Nobody listened to him, and as a result, his world went to shit. Mm. And now he's saying, I don't want to make that same mistake twice. And there's a nobility to that, and he's an honorable person. Like, we saw it in the trailers, and it plays into the movie when he looks to Tony Stark and says, I hope they remember you. Yeah. There's a respectability between them. Like,
and it's not like a mocking thing. He's sincere. No. He said, you've given me, like, a good fight. Like, this is the most I've been challenged.
If someone stands in his way, Thanos is going to take you down.
Oh, absolutely.
But he regrets it. Well, not regret, but, like, he
acknowledges you as a fighter.
I think he mourns the death of Gamora. Yes. But he understands that it needs to be done for the greater good, for what he perceives as the greater good.
And that's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking. Like, I don't. In the end, you see a complex cascade of emotions on his face as he's sitting. By the way, I think I have a theory that where he's sitting at the end is his homeworld, and he might have used the gauntlet to change it back. Not get all the people back, but like he did with the Reality Stone, change how it looked. Maybe.
Yeah.
It
would make sense.
I don't think it was Earth.
No, that definitely wasn't Earth. Yeah. But I don't know why he would be on another planet.
Just some other planet. So maybe it's his own world and he changed how it looked.
Yeah.
Whatever. But he doesn't regret what he's done. Mm-hmm. If he had to do it, like, clearly if he has this goal and if he could do it any other way, I think he would. I don't think he's out. I don't think he lusts for blood kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just what he had to do. And I think if he could do it again, if he had to do it again, I think he would. I think he's a villain that understands the worth of life and just knows that in his own way of thinking, he has to take it anyway.
He's a very big picture person, and he looks at things in the big picture, and I think as a result, he tries not to think of things in individual lives, but as opposed to, like, this is for the greater good. Yeah. But I think when he's faced with a moment like having to kill his own daughter in order to achieve that goal, he still does it. Yeah. But he wishes it didn't come to that. Like, I think he wishes there could have been a different outcome to that. Yeah. But if he had to do it again, he would. Yeah. And I think that makes him such a strong character. So,
especially when he has those small moments, it takes him a lot to do it. Like, he was just standing there looking at the cliff for so long. It actually hurt him to do it, but the whole thing with he can do his entire plan with the snap of his fingers is just emotion. He does it. He doesn't have to think about it at all because he knows it's what he wants. Yeah. So I think it's really shown there that when he does have to sort of, like, I guess, come back and just focus on what's happening right there and now, it really does take a lot out of him. And maybe that's why he thinks in such a big picture, because he's kind of almost, I guess, in terms of what he's trying to do, he's almost weaker when he's almost more, for lack of a better term, human when he has to do something that is so small and only for him.
Let's talk about the ending, and I think we'll have a little bit of disagreement here. Just a little bit. So, Thanos gets all the Infinity Stones. He snaps his fingers, and half the population of the entire universe dissolves.
Yep.
And we see a whole bunch of characters dissolve. We see Falcon, we see Groot, we see all the Guardians except for Rocket.
Mm-hmm.
All the Guardians go. We see Spider-Man, we see Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Winter Soldier, and I don't know. This ending bothers me. And I think the best way to talk about it is to talk about how I initially felt and how I've come to feel since. When Falcon and Winter Soldier started to dissolve, I was sitting there with my jaw open thinking, holy shit, they're going for it.
Yeah.
Then Black Panther dissolved, and I was like, wait a minute. Then Spider-Man won, and I thought to myself, okay, they killed the guy who has a movie coming out next year, so that means they're not really dead. And my first thought was anger, because not just one of Marvel's biggest weaknesses, but one of the things that I just can't stand when it happens is fake deaths. Like, it seems like essentially every single Marvel movie, they pull the fake death of they kill someone and then they bring them back to life, and Marvel can't kill anyone, for real. And this was supposed to be different. Kevin Feige said before, people are going to die. Thanos even makes jokes about it. No resurrections this time. And I do think everyone before the snap is really dead. Or at least I hope.
Yeah.
I hope.
I think so.
If they bring Gamora back by saying, oh, she was trapped in the Soul Stone and therefore she's still alive, if they say some bullshit like that, that's really going to bother me. But I think it's pretty safe to say anyone before the snap is really dead, and anyone after the snap is going to be brought back to life. Initially, when I saw in the theater, I was very angry because I thought it's all been building to this, and the whole movie is predicated on a fake death. And now I know that what you're going to do in Avengers 4 is just going to work to undo it all and undo the events in Infinity War. And by that point, what's the point of Infinity War if you're just going to undo everything? Since then, I've slept on it, and I watched the movie again. I don't feel as strongly about it as I did initially. I still wish they ended it differently. I still wish they had found a way to do it where you didn't immediately know that everyone was going to be brought back to life. And my suggestion was maybe don't kill Spider-Man and Black Panther. If you killed everyone else, I think I would have doubted whether they were going to actually be able to do it. I would have suspected that they were probably going to try to find a way to bring half the population of the universe back to life, but I wouldn't be positive that they would actually be able to succeed. By Spider-Man dying and Black Panther dying, I know they find a way to do it. Because there's no way Spider-Man and Black Panther stay dead. And so just by knowing that these characters will come back to life and knowing that 100%, I don't have any doubt that they're going to come back to life. Mm-hmm. Knowing that 100%, it took away from the emotional stakes at the end. It took away from that because I'm sitting there watching, and Tom Holland is acting his ass off, and full props to him, and he's saying, I don't want to go. Mm-hmm. And that's a sad moment, and I felt that it was sad. But I couldn't really, I didn't feel anything for it because I just knew he was coming back to life.
I think this is a movie where people are going to die. Mm-hmm. But based on the nature of the comic it was based on the nature of who, you have a limited pool of actors. Mm-hmm. I think going into this movie thinking that some people are going to die and in the part 2 they'll be brought back to life, I think assuming that won't be the case or hoping that won't be the case is a little incorrect. I think, and by the way, are we all in agreement that Avengers 4, what's they're calling it right now, is basically Infinity War Part 2? They said it won't be, and it probably won't be called Infinity War Part 2, but
I think this is I think you're still going to be dealing with the same story.
Yes.
But I don't think I don't think it's like taking one movie and just splitting it into two.
No,
I don't think
this is
it's
a complete movie, but the next one is the next part of it.
Yeah.
It is a sequel to this film.
Yeah, no, I will agree with that.
Continues the story.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think they had one story and they're like, you know what, this is too long in a movie.
No.
Let's split it into two parts,
it was
3 and 4.
originally part 1 and part 2. And then they backtracked. They said, no, it's
and
not.
I think it's probably better to call it something other than just Infinity War Part 2.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, I agree with you that it's not like we're suddenly picking up with a brand new story, brand new villain or anything. It's going to be continuing.
So from here on out, I'll be calling it Part 2. But
okay,
that's what I think it will be. But I disagree that because these characters, we know they have a sequel, that doesn't make it as emotional. I think I certainly felt emotions when Spider-Man died for the first time. Even characters that I assumed might have died, like Loki and Gamora. Like, these are deaths that mean something. And I think the thing that gets me is the suspension of disbelief. Yeah, I know Black Panther's going to come back. His movie made $1 billion. Marvel would be really dumb to just kill off Black Panther. But the characters don't know that. The what is her name? Okoye doesn't know that. She just sees her king die, and they don't know that they'll be brought back. It's the suspension of disbelief for me.
Well, to counter that, I would say it's the same thing for me as in Black Panther when T'Challa falls off the cliff and all the characters think he's dead. We never for a second believed he was actually dead.
No.
And so when he falls off and they all are mourning his loss, I never felt emotional for Black Panther's death. I never felt like, it's so sad Black Panther died because these characters think he's dead. I was like, no, he's still alive, and we're going to find out in probably 15 to 20 minutes that he's actually alive somehow, and that's exactly what happened. And I think of it, now, I understand if other people think of it differently. That's fine. We all look at things in a different way, but for me, that's how I look at it, in that I can't get emotionally invested in this death because I know the death isn't real.
I don't think anyone thought Black Panther died, though.
Well, in the movie, in the movie, the characters thought he died, and so it's the same thing that you're saying, in that you're empathizing for the characters who think that this person is really dead, even though we as the audience know they're not. It's the same thing.
Yeah, and I argue that isn't a fake death then, because as of right now, we have no idea how these characters are going to come back, if all of them are.
If some of them stay dead, I think that's why I've said, I haven't said this in the discussion, but I've said in person, I'm reserving judgment until Avengers 4, because I have to see how they bring them back, because it all depends upon how they do it, and, some characters, it could be that the only ones who actually do come back to life are Spider-Man and Black Panther. It could be. I doubt it, but that could be the case. So it's all about what they do and how they do it in Avengers 4.
I guess I just disagree with the fact that because the deaths aren't real, because we went in knowing that some of these characters were going to die, it doesn't give it as much emotional impact. And I think that's just your personal opinion. Yeah. I think that a large amount of people would agree that it had emotional impact, but...
I mean, I felt sad. Like seeing Spider-Man, like so distraught like that. I felt something. It's not like I was just sitting there like a brick, not feeling anything, like a brick wall, but... I mean, it didn't feel genuine. Gamora, I felt something because this was a character who we had been attached to actually dying, and I knew she was dead. When I saw Spider-Man die, I was like, well, he's not really dead. So, and I think of it in the same, again, you guys may not, but for me, it's the same thing as Black Panther dying in Black Panther. He's not really dead, even though the characters think he's dead. And I understand, I felt for their pain. I never once actually felt that myself because I know Black Panther is not dead. And he's going to come back in 15 minutes. And I know Spider-Man's going to be back next movie. So, again, if Marvel had not repeatedly done this, if it wasn't every single movie they pull the same trick over and over again, if this was the first time they had ever done a fake death, then I would have, okay, whatever, I can live with that. But it's the fact that they continuously do it, and it's the fact that it's a huge flaw with them, is that they never actually commit to killing their characters. Like, Loki has died, 3 times, and he keeps finding a way to come back. And it lessens the stakes every time.
I disagree because even Thor says like this is it. Like he says in the film this time like I
no, but I mean in general.
Well,
like in general, like because now it's to the point when a person dies in a Marvel movie, my first thought isn't they're dead. My first thought is, well, they're gonna come back to life by the end of the movie. It's because they've gone to that well so many times, and the fact to have the ending of Infinity War be solely based on that, and the fact that much of Avengers 4 is just going to be undoing the events of Infinity War. Now, again, it depends upon how they do it and what they do in Avengers 4. But I wish they'd gone a different route. I wish they had just didn't back themselves into this corner.
I think you and I can talk about this for as long as the universe will exist, and neither
which isn't long with Thanos.
We just fundamentally disagree on this. So, Matt, what do you think about this? How did you feel about the ending?
So the ending, I think, I definitely separated the deaths before and after the snap.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely didn't feel the same about the last ones I did with the first ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, at least for me, the first one still really meant something because as I saw people disappearing, I was going off on a checklist of like, okay, I was like, please don't get rid of Black Panther. Please don't get rid of Black Panther. Okay, Black Panther's gone. Doctor Strange, you're like my next favorite. Don't go. Oh, you're gone too. And I was just going through my head to being like, I know they're not dead, but I also really didn't want them to be one of the ones that disappeared, and they still did.
So, Avengers 4, or Infinity War Part 2, there is some stuff's going to happen. Now, let's talk about what our basic theories are. Now, I don't think there's a way... I think we all had tons of theories about what was going to happen in Infinity War, and they were all wrong. But I think we have a basic idea of what's going to happen. Obviously, steps are going to be taken to undo parts of what happened in Infinity War. Now, I think my theory is that there's a reason why we have the original Avengers all still alive. Yeah. We still have Iron Man, we still have Thor, we have Cap, we have Black Widow, we have War Machine, we have Hulk, we have all the originals still together. And I think that's for a reason. Now, my hope is that it will have to come to something in that the original Avengers will have to sacrifice their own lives, trade their lives to bring to life the new Avengers. Because the old Avengers realize we can't protect Earth anymore. We have to hand the baton off to the new team. And the only way we can do that is to trade our lives for theirs. And I think that would be a really smart way to undo the events of Infinity War and to bring those characters back to life while also still having a very still having emotion to it. It's not just reversing time. Yeah. But you have to lose something. You're sacrificing, very much like Thanos, you're sacrificing something to gain this.
The soul.
And I think that would really mean something. And especially if they are stuck in the Soul Stone or the Soul World or whatever, I think it would be very much a soul for a soul. Yeah. So I think that's something that I think is going to play an important role. Now, also, I think one of the most important parts of Infinity War is when Doctor Strange is looking at all the different realities. And he says, I've seen 14 million different versions of this. There's one outcome in which we win. And I think that's when Doctor Strange first turned over the Time Stone. My first thought was, that was so stupid the way they set that up. I mean, he just turned it over like that. And I was like, wait a second. He had a reason for doing that because he saw the one reality in which they actually beat Thanos and they actually win involves this. Yeah. And so I think that is going to play an important role, as well as the fact that we have all the original Avengers still alive. Nick, what are your thoughts on how Avengers 4 is going to go?
I think it largely plays out how you think it will. I think Captain Marvel will come. I think she'll have some form of rally, like kind of rallying the older members to like, you're grieving, you've lost, I understand that, we can still win, we can still do whatever. I think she'll be introduced in a way like that. I know her solo movie comes first, but I think she'll be that kind of force, that new injection of life into the older members. I certainly think people will come back, be it through time travel or the Soul Stone or however they do it. I'm really looking forward to the scene where you have all of the characters there. Because they said in some pre-showing interviews or whatever that there is a scene in one of these movies where all of the 60-some-odd characters are on screen at the same time. So I think that's one thing I'm really excited for. Strange as it be, I'm really excited to see Hawkeye again. I only named him once.
Hawkeye and Ant-Man, where were they? They weren't in Infinity War.
They weren't in Infinity War. They were at home, apparently, doing whatever. But I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to see the reconciliation between Cap and Iron Man. And I'm excited to see the new wave of Avengers. Because that's one thing in comics I've always really liked. The idea that mantles can be passed down. Like, Batman's been Batman for well over 75 years now. And the mantle's changed hands a few times, but he'll always be Batman. But in these movies, I think it's a really good opportunity to diversify the Avengers. Like, I grew up with Iron Man back in 2008, but now I can see younger people have Spider-Man as this new tech hero to come in and take on that role.
Yeah.
And
now, by passing on the mantle, I think what you're saying, and this is what I would want, is not necessarily you get a new person as Iron Man, but rather
like
the
Spider-Man,
team changes, which is
team,
what I would want.
Yes.
I don't want someone else coming in and saying, now I'm Iron Man, or Bucky taking on the shield, like, now I'm Captain America.
I do want Bucky to be Captain
I don't.
America.
Captain America is Steve Rogers, but that's a separate issue. I would rather the teams change, and you have the new Avengers be Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Ant-Man, Wasp, Captain Marvel. That's what I would prefer, rather than new people or new actors coming in to play.
That's what I meant.
The characters.
That's what I think.
So I just wanted to clarify that. Matt, what are your thoughts on how Avengers 4 is going to go?
I think you guys pretty covered. I don't have really any particular theories on how it's going to happen. I'm just gonna
still distraught.
Yeah. I can't think about the future right now. I'm still trying to remember what I just saw. No, but I'm definitely excited to see everyone on screen, and also just possibly I'm interested to see certain goodbyes. Mainly how is Spider-Man gonna say goodbye to Iron Man? Because we kind of saw it in reverse when he was basically hugging his father type figure.
Yeah,
when he was going, I'd like to see that in reverse, and just a good. I think for Marvel Avengers, I don't know the title. For the fourth Avengers movie, I'm excited to see how do people say goodbye to each other if they get the opportunity to, of course.
Yeah. So with the spoiler discussion, I figured we'd try something new. So I got a few fans send in some questions and comments about Infinity War, and we're just going to talk about them. So coming first from Logan Bull 66. Commenting on the fact that Infinity War broke the domestic and the worldwide box office records, he says, rightfully so, this is the best superhero movie ever made and one of the best movies ever made too. Now, I don't think I would put it that far, but I can totally see, I have heard nothing but praise across the board. Everyone's saying one of the best superhero movies, one of the best Marvel movies. Personally, I think it would be, if it's not at the very end of my top 5 of MCU movies, it would be just outside of it. Probably 5, 6, or 7, right around there. I think I would still put the original Avengers, Civil War, Winter Soldier, the original Avengers. I'd put them over it, personally. But everyone is raving about this movie. Everyone loves this movie, and it's so great to see a good movie, a really good movie, get so much love and attention, and have that also be shown with its box office.
Yeah, I completely agree with him. This is the best movie ever made. I think this is the first of its kind for a cast to have so many stars in it, to make as much money as it has, and to be so critically acclaimed. I think it does have a say for, in my mind, best movie of all time.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest, best event movies in history.
So.
It has its place in cinematic history,
I think,
by far.
Yes.
In terms of Marvel movies, it's one of my favorites. In terms of movies, it's one of my favorites. So I completely agree.
And I can definitely see someone saying it's the greatest movie ever made. Coming out of the theater, just the amount of energy that you have leaving the theater. I could definitely see the feeling you have being so unique that you can't describe it in any other way. So I can definitely get that.
So our next question comes in from Tony Roosevelt, who writes, "What are your thoughts on Star-Lord's role in the fight against Thanos on Titan?" I thought it was interesting because the first time when I saw Star-Lord, he hears that Gamora's died and he loses it. My first thought was like, oh, that felt forced. That felt like they kind of forced that just so Thanos can get out of it. The second time I saw it, it made a lot more sense because I think it plays into Star-Lord's character. And I think he is the kind of character who would go off like that and would kind of lose control. Now, you could say, from watching it from an outside perspective, watching the film, you could say, he should have just waited 5 seconds. But, he's finding out that his girlfriend is dead. And he's looking into the eyes of the person who killed her. Yeah. And I think anyone would lose it in that moment and wouldn't think to themselves, oh, I should wait 5 seconds to make sure that we can get the glove off before I go off. It makes sense for his character, and it makes sense in reality how someone would react. So it bothered me more the first time, but the second time it makes more sense for me.
It definitely was that, you're an idiot, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Sort of moment, especially where Thanos is in such a helpless state. He really, I could definitely see, anyone taking the opportunity to just beat him up.
I don't think it ever bothered me. I really understood why he did what he did, and I don't think it felt forced. Or I don't know. I think in the physical role, I think in the physical role of the battle, he could have done more, shoot more blasters, I guess. But in terms of that specific scene, I understand why he did it, and it made sense to me. So.
Yeah.
Sorry about your girlfriend.
Yeah, sorry, dude.
Next comment comes in from Robbie G52, who writes, "One question for you. What did it cost?" Everything. That whole scene was great. We talked about that a little bit before, but the whole Thanos comes in and she says, "What did it cost?" Everything. There was so much weight to that. Yeah. And just the look on Josh Brolin's face. That was such a really good moment to help cap off the movie.
I feel like that was one of the first times he may have actually doubted himself.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of, maybe one moment he's like, maybe I'm not totally right about this, or maybe it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But it's too late at that point.
If we're being completely honest, though, didn't cost everything. Cost half.
Yeah.
Half of everything.
Half of everything.
So that's
50% off.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
So
pretty good deal. You take the deal when it's up.
What did it cost? Half.
Yeah. Next question comes in from What I Watched Tonight, who writes, "Would you have pulled a Wong and returned to the sanctum to protect it, i.e. hide?" That was something I hadn't really considered. The fact that Wong is just like, all right, see ya, I'm out of here.
Don't do my boy Wong like that. He's just trying his best.
Now, to be fair, it's set up in Doctor Strange the importance of having the sanctum
protected.
Yeah, it needs to be protected because, yes, you have Thanos coming and destroying everything, but you have other threats that could seize the opportunity. And there's a big emphasis put on by Doctor Strange saying that the Time Stone needs to be protected. It needs to be protected. So when I was looking for it the second time we saw it, because I got this question before we saw it, I was like, yeah, I guess you could look at that and you can be, Wong's like, all right, I'm out of here, see ya.
Have fun with that.
Yeah, exactly. It can be seen that way, but I think they set up enough context that it makes sense why he needs to leave.
Me personally, I'd go like adventure, hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
But that's me. It's probably not the smarter thing for Wong to do.
I wonder if he made it.
We didn't get to talk about Wong.
If he made it.
Was he one of the half?
Who knows? But I loved Wong in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought he added so much. He had his badass moments in the streets, but he also had a lot of really good comedy moments. He wasn't in it a ton. He was just in the beginning, but he was nice having there for what he was, and he had good back and forth with Doctor Strange.
Yeah, even he wasn't wasted.
Yeah, he did good. Wong. Did good.
And our last comment comes in from Mid-Level Movie Reviews, who writes, "Why is Gamora?" Which, that whole comedy bit was so great. The where is Gamora? I'll ask you another question. Who is Gamora? And then Drax is, I'll ask another question. Why is Gamora?
I think that was, I think I would say that's one of the funniest jokes in the movie.
I remember
just like dying because it just makes so much sense with it, like
Yeah,
who
for
he is,
Drax's character.
and why I love his like really just dry sort of humor. So
They have a
much.
lot of great Drax moments in this movie. There was like they put so much time in with Drax's comedic moments, and I thought that was something really well done. I love just the Guardians in general in this movie.
You're mimicking his voice. No, I'm not. Yes, you are.
He just did it again.
Or just when they start kissing and he's just standing there like eating the snack, and they're like, "How long have you been here?" An hour.
You can't see me. I've trained myself to be perfectly still.
So
You can't see this.
And then Mantis comes in, "Hey, Drax!" Damn it, and walks away. There were a lot of great Drax moments and a lot of great Guardians moments.
So I have a
Just in
question
general.
for you.
Yes.
Why not is Gamora? Think about that.
C, final answer.
See.
C, final.
No deal. That's my answer. Lock it in.
So, just final thoughts on the movie going around. I thought it's probably one of the best movie theater experiences I've ever had. Seeing it that first time, I just loved the energy in the room, everyone cheering and clapping whenever characters showed up. It's a really great time at the movies, and it's a really good film as well. Getting to see all these characters come together and interact, the action sequences, the comedy, it's really Marvel hitting on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders. I have some issues with the end, but that depends upon what they do with it in Avengers 4. Of course, I have like little nitpicky things here and there. But, you know, it's a really good, entertaining movie. It's fun. I give it a 4.3 out of 5. Matt?
I think definitely taking into consideration what this movie is and how groundbreaking it is. That not only that, like I think people in another world where this wasn't as good, people could use that as an excuse for like why maybe it fell short, but it didn't fall short. It had those unheard of challenges and still was something great.
Yeah, what the Russos were able to pull off
just-
is just incredible.
It's especially just from a filmmaking perspective, just trying to wrap my own head around how to approach that. It still doesn't make any sense to me, and I've seen it. I've seen it work.
Yeah.
I've seen exactly how to do it, and I still don't know how to do it. Like
Yeah.
that's how incredible I would say that is.
Yeah.
I would say very high 4s, not 5. Always room for improvement. Anyway.
Nick?
I'm going to say 5 out of 5. I think for me, this is probably one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's a novel experience because I love superhero movies. That's my thing. To come out of a movie theater where the villain won irrevocably, like there's no debating that Thanos won.
Yeah.
Good guys lost.
Yeah.
That was such a novel experience. I think the movie it was such a perfect blend of like the dark, dramatic moments and the comedy, and I think it's everything that I love about a Marvel movie. So clearly, there's always room for improvement, but in this case, I think you'd be hard pressed to improve it a lot. So I'm going to say very little, like make it just a little bit longer, a few seconds.
Yeah.
5 out of 5. I liked it a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, and that's going to do it for our Avengers Infinity War spoiler discussion. Once again, I'm your host, Nathanael Molnár, and I'm joined by Matt Smith.
Yep, always a pleasure.
And Nick Elliott. Thank you for being on the panel.
Of course.
And go check out themovieparadise.com. There you can see movie news, reviews, interviews, editorials. There is our Avengers Infinity War spoiler-free discussion. And be sure to check out all the new content going up on there. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, do whatever you would like. And we'll see you next time for our next spoiler discussion.
Bye, everybody.